I'm going to show you just from this article, one piece from this article of how much this article can be accurate in some ways, like about the Holocaust, but how they twist it. And I believe this is a doctor. So this was just written last year. We believe that all healthcare workers, from doctors and nurses and midwives to radiation technologists, respiratory therapists, and others, need to know this history regarding the Holocaust and systematically reflect on its meaning in light of current health and other societal crises now underway. Disparities in the COVID-19 pandemic, fed by racism. Disparities in the COVID-19 pandemic fed by racism, political divisions, and right-wing extremism that pose an immediate threat to democracies around the world. So this is where it's all twisted, and this is a higher educated person. Again, doesn't know the history, first of all, of America. We're not a democracy, okay? We have parts of a democracy in our system, but we're a republic. Our founders were way smarter, I've said it before, than professors at any of our universities. They were way smarter. They knew the pitfalls with a strict democracy. If we were a strict democracy, you would be voting on every single issue, and California, the East Coast, and Chicago would decide everything, which could be a horror show. Because none of the other states would matter because they have bigger demographics there, which is the reason for the Electoral College, so it's fair. Clearly, elections aren't fair anymore. But anyway, the other things that are untrue about this, okay, because he goes on to talk about healthcare needs to systemically operate on a moral basis. This is a socialist, and he wants to refer to right-wing extremists. Like that's what Hitler was. Hitler was not a right-wing extremist. He was a socialist. He was. Most people know that if you look into Hitler, that's what he is. That's what he ran on. His people in Germany, the German people were hurting. They did vote him in because he wasn't talking crazy stuff when he was campaigning. His ideas were the German people liked. He wasn't talking about mass genocide. He was a socialist. The reason they like to put the right-wing extremists in the Hitler territory, and it always makes the higher educated look stupid, in my opinion, when they do this. Because first of all, what Hitler's party was socialism, and the left is what is aligned with socialism, always. But they like to try to do that because he was a nationalist. I'm a nationalist. I don't stand with anything he did. I don't stand with socialism. But he was a nationalist. Nationalists these days mean sovereignty. Globalism means slavery. Unfortunately, the highest of the educated have stood behind their socialism agenda, not even looking at the facts of history that socialism really is. It never helps the little people, and it always leads eventually to a more communist state. This, more than anything, pandemic fed by racism. No, this was all designed. So there's a reason why, after fear-mongering to you, and they were still fear-mongering, but in the middle of all their fear-mongering, the media did, the George Floyd incident happened. There's a reason that I refer to George Floyd as the golden calf, because he was the catalyst that the media and the healthcare and the education system used to propel in more socialism, really globalism. Obamacare took the healthcare system into socialized medicine, which is why it's gotten worse over time. And now they're taking that socialized medicine system. It's happening right now. If any of these higher educated want to look into it, they should, but I don't know if they have common sense anymore. But now you see the healthcare systems, the hospitals merging into other states to become one, under one umbrella. At one umbrella that one government system would dictate. That's what socialism does. And then it takes over everything, and that's how it was under Germany. And that's how you end up leading to mass genocide. Socialism lines with globalism. Globalism wants everything under one umbrella, which was the reason for Obamacare, and why healthcare is now moving as it merges into one system, as it's moving into a communist system. So it'll get worse. Because I'm a nationalist. Hitler was a nationalist, but his party was socialism. I'm a nationalist, and there's a reason I've never voted for any Democrat in my life. Because they always want more government, and it's always more government controlling things that it comes under one umbrella, exactly what the UN and globalism wants, that ends up leading to that mass genocide. It baffles me why the higher educated don't understand this. Maybe it's again too much schooling. I'm not really sure. But George Floyd was brought in to be the catalyst, so that people, it was put in your face, that boot on the neck. The media deliberately displayed that 24/7 to people, because after they fear-mongered to you and broke you down, then they wanted to enrage you so that you would go stand with Black Lives Matter. And what it really did was then it allowed for the healthcare system to come out in its shining moment with the Medical Association and Nursing Association and say, and CDC, the new public health crisis is systemic racism, and we stand with BLM. They stood with a terrorist organization. They should have denounced their standing with BLM in the fall of 2020 after they burned cities down. But the higher educated are always the least to ever admit that they're wrong. When do you ever hear them admit that they're wrong? Never. Because they believe that they know best, okay? But for whatever reason, it's the higher educated that it shows even in studies that they are the easiest to manipulate, and they always seem to align with socialist communist agendas. And what Karl Marx, but what Hitler did became racist. The healthcare system became racist. So what does that tell you when you look at the George Floyd, you look at CDC, you look at the hospitals and the medical professions that dictate the standard of care, when they decided to come out and say that we stand with Black Lives Matter, a systemic racism problem in this country, were they operating on scientific evidence? Absolutely not. That was at that moment, and they used the catalyst of George Floyd to then become, we're going to operate on social justice. That's what Hitler did. That's what it was all about. And the very fact that the most highest educated at AMA, at ANA, Nursing and Medical Association, and the Hospital Association, CDC, couldn't see that you're not standing with anything, first of all, not evidence, but when you say we're going to reckon our racist ways, because now we're going to highlight only Black individuals and we're going to disregard white people or any other people. That's just reversing your racism, and you're still showing that, because they came out and said our organization has been racist in the past. Okay, you didn't learn your lesson, because you still to this day, 3 years later, are pushing, again, you're pushing this Black agenda, and what you're doing is now you're being racist at whites. So it's showing a lack of common sense and a lack of maturity, as I said in my last video. But they're doing it because it's globalism. Who does this align with? Communism, a theoretical economic system characterized by the collective ownership of property and by the organization of labor for the common advantage of all members. That sounds like labor unions, yeah. It also sounds like our government, and it sounds like globalism, yeah, because it is. A system of government in which the state plans and controls the economy, and a single, often authoritarian party holds power, claiming to make progress, key there, claiming to make progress toward a higher social order in which all goods are equally shared by the people. This is all socialism, the same exact thing, and it's always been on the Democratic side. So if you're worried about the higher educated, maybe need to take a lesson from people that don't have all their degrees.